Hey everybody, welcome to Close to the Heart, a very special edition of Close to the Heart here on YouTube.com. I am Jason Klaus. Thank you so much for watching. We're doing something different this week, something that I kind of told myself subconsciously, I guess, that I would never do, but with the ramifications and the unprecedented events that we have all been undergoing here with the coronavirus and how it has affected every single aspect of our lives, I figured, what the hell, we're going to do something a little bit different. With me is a very good friend of mine, somebody that I have the utmost respect and admiration for. Please welcome Chris Welch to the show. Chris, how we doing, brother?
Surviving as best we can in this madness. How about yourself?
Hey, we're doing the same, man. Taking it one day at a time, right?
Absolutely.
So we are going to actually revisit WrestleMania 36 that just took place this past weekend. They billed it as the WrestleMania that was too big for one night. And of course, they split it up over the course of 2 nights. Unprecedented. Chris, you are a lifelong professional wrestling fan. Did you ever imagine that we would see anything like what we saw this past weekend?
No, I did not. I wasn't sure what to expect. I took my hardcore fan goggles off and watched as just, I guess, a normal fan knowing what was going on around our world. And
Right.
I took it all in and tried not to be super judgy, but you can only look at it in so many different ways when you've been watching the product for so long. So, yeah, I never thought I'd see a 2-nighter, but after seeing it, it made me wonder, could this possibly be a new thing?
Yeah, we will talk about that during the course of this show this week. And let me thank you, first of all, for taking time out of your day for being on the show. I greatly appreciate it. We talked about doing this last week.
Yep.
And I was like, what if we did this? You know, because I always swore that I would never go full blown into a recap show for a major, you know, like the mainstream product, right?
Absolutely.
So, but you know, with as unprecedented as WrestleMania was this year, you know, taking place in an empty building at the Performance Center, a far cry from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa Bay, which is where it was originally supposed to be held. Yeah. I too was like, man, I don't know what to expect here. For me, it was a little bit more difficult to look at it just as a fan because I'm in the business. I'm a promoter. I'm a performer. So I have a different set of eyeballs when it comes to the wrestling product. But I think, you know, I was able for the most part to take off the promoter hat and set it out to the side and just watch the presentation as a fan. So I'm very interested to see what your takeaway was. So let's get right into it.
All right.
It started off, we saw the pre-show, and another unprecedented move by WWE. This was actually not just on the WWE network. This was broadcast on FS1. And I thought, you know, my takeaway from that was Fox Sports and ESPN, for that matter, you know, they're scrambling to find new content. And yep. I think it was a brilliant move to bring WWE into the fold, right? Because you're getting brand new content. You're not seeing, you know, classic MLB games. You're not seeing old Super Bowls. This is original content. And I felt like, especially, you know, it was a WWE product. It was a WWE presentation. But the fact that it was on Fox Sports 1, as well as the WWE Network, I thought, man, if this does not shed some sort of legitimate light on professional wrestling, nothing else will. What was your takeaway on that?
I totally agree. It's a callback to the old, you know, pre-shows back with Sunday Night Heat, but on a bigger stage. You get more eyeballs on your product. People are scrambling. Everyone's indoors right now. They're watching TV, you know, Showtime, Cinemax. They're giving you free previews of their stations. Everyone is pretty much stuck inside, or supposed to be.
Right.
So putting it on a major thing like that, you know, a network like ESPN and FS1 for the pre-show, it's awesome. It gets more eyeballs. It might get more fans.
that was going to be my point. And in my opinion, you know, they did a pre-show match. I don't think they could have picked two better in-ring workers to kick this thing off for new eyeballs to get people, okay, these two guys could conceivably be beating the ever-living hell out of each other. Drew Gulak and Cesaro, two underutilized talents, in my opinion. Would you agree with that?
Completely agree. It had that old school feeling. It was more of like a, you know, I don't want to drop it too much. It was a Ring of Honor type match, you know. Both guys have kind of been there type situation. A callback to the old school matches. I really liked it. I've always been a big fan of Cesaro. I've always kind of kept my eye on 205 Live, so I knew Drew Gulak pretty good. And, you know, bringing him with Daniel Bryan is only going to give him that good rub, brother. And
right.
It was a great match. I put that down, and I loved it.
I thought it was a very good match. It was kind of weird seeing all of the WrestleMania logos all over in an empty building, though.
Yeah.
It was very surreal, is what I have down in my notes. I mean, we've seen the empty arena SmackDowns and the Raws and stuff, but this was WrestleMania, you know, and it just like, man, it kind of, for me, it took a little bit out of it, but Gulak and Cesaro were in an unenviable spot, in my opinion. You know, they were the ones that were setting the table for the rest of the night, and I thought, for all intents and purposes, they did very well. They played well to the hard cam, not so much the invisible audience. My biggest issue with that match was way too early to start utilizing the ring steps and so much outside of the ring action. I mean, because we had a match, we had a card on Saturday night that had a bunch of different stipulations. You know, the ladder match for the tag team titles. We'll get to that in a little bit. I just felt like it was a little too early to start utilizing hardcore-esque, and I put that in quotations. You know, the ring steps came into play and everything a little bit too early. I wish they would have stayed in the ring more to just tell a fundamental story, but it is what it is. Cesaro gets the win. I was happy to see that. Overall, taking everything into consideration, I gave it a B-.
I agree with that. That's a good grade. And back to your point, those are two guys that don't need to go outside the ring. You know, those are two guys that can let their talking do inside the ropes, and they normally do. Right. So I totally agree with that. You didn't need to bring the steps in. You didn't need to do all the outside shenanigans, but I did. I love the match. Very technical. And I'm a big fan of the Artist Collective. I love that group. I love it.
Yeah. A lot of potential there.
Yes.
A lot of potential. Even if they just kept it with Sami Zayn as the manager, I think he is doing a phenomenal job as the mouthpiece, especially for a guy like Shinsuke Nakamura. You know, a strong mouthpiece is what's missing from his total package. I think the guy is a magician in the ring. But his lack of promo could be correlated to a lack of personality. That is certainly not the case if you actually sit and watch this guy. Right. But Cesaro is well established, and I think with Sami Zayn and Nakamura, it takes them to a different plateau, I think. And I think that they can do some really cool stuff if they allow them to do that. Totally. Now, Corey Graves and Peter Rosenberg were the hosts both nights of the pre-shows. I was kind of bummed that Corey Graves was not on the call for the actual pay-per-view, but I understand why. Peter Rosenberg, man, just doesn't do it for me. He just doesn't do it for me. Just my opinion.
I'm more of I'll take a Rosenberg over a Sam Roberts myself.
I'll give you that.
But at the same time, I get it. You could have used some more talent that actually works there. You know, I get they try to get the outside presence, you know. But, you know, you got Renee Young, you got Booker T. You could have used some other guys, I thought.
Yeah. Corey Graves is right now, in my opinion, the best announcer that they have. That's
he is
my
our
opinion.
he is our Jesse the Body Ventura.
Yes.
This nowadays.
Yes.
I love Tom Phillips.
Do you?
Calls it straight. I do. I always have. I don't know.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
back on Raw. I'll just say that. Shout out to Tom.
So from there, we went to the actual pay-per-view broadcast. Everybody had to either switch over to the WWE network. They had to buy the pay-per-view through your traditional satellite and cable providers. And for the first time ever, Fight TV covered this thing, which totally blew me out of the water when I seen that. I was not expecting that. The Fox Sports app, I could see that because of their deal with SmackDown and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Fight TV, though, man, that I thought it was a rib. I thought somebody had made their own graphic for this until I did some research. I'm like, well, goddamn, they really are covering WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So that.
Yeah, that's big. You know, they do a lot of the war AEW shows,
right?
And I thought it was very interesting. And just like I said, more eyeballs. Some people only have streaming services.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't want to do the WWE app. They're clicking through Fight and they're like, WWE, what? Let's do it. Right. And maybe some people did get it that way. Who knows?
So we switched over. We saw a very, in my opinion, these are just my opinions, a very professional opening speech from Stephanie McMahon, who really, I mean, say what you want about her. I mean, they couldn't have, I mean, other than Vince himself, they couldn't have asked for a better person to really set the stage for why this WrestleMania was different and why it is what it was, right? She came out, she was very poised, very professional. I thought she did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I agree. Had a brave face. Made you not feel, you know, so depressed with everything that's going on. Kind of invited you in to what you were about to witness, and I like that.
Yes, very, very well said. Though then we were met with a great montage of the different versions of America the Beautiful. Obviously, with everything happening, they couldn't bring in a big name celebrity. I was kind of thinking they may have brought Lillian in, you know, back in for one night to do America the Beautiful. They elected not to do that. I can understand why on both parts, because I think she's based in Los Angeles.
I do believe so.
So to bring her into Orlando would have been
kind of pointless.
Pointless and kind of dangerous at this point.
Absolutely.
You really don't want to be going through airports unless you absolutely have to at this point.
Right.
So they did a great montage of all the different versions. I mean, you had Aretha on there from WrestleMania 3. You had Willie Nelson, Gladys Knight,
Ray Charles,
Scherzinger, the Harlem Boys Choir. I mean, just fantastic.
Yep, I love that.
And the opening video, classic WWE production, the whole pirate theme.
Yep.
The voiceover was was something else. Wait a minute, let's go back in time. And I was like, oh, that was kind of cool how they did that. The video graphic arts, that company is second to none.
I agree.
Stuff like that.
Production level, not even close.
No, very cool. And I thought it was cool how they transitioned to For Those About to Rock by AC/DC. I'm a huge AC/DC fan, so anytime that they utilize their music for anything, I'm all in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then we take a step back, and by God, there's Rob Gronkowski welcoming everybody. And I am not a fan of this guy. His presentation when he came out a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown to announce that he was the host of WrestleMania, Chris, I about puked in my mouth, bro, because I think this guy is the most overhyped piece of trash that there is. And it could be because I'm not a Patriots fan. But he is, in my opinion, when I see him, he is a blithering idiot.
He's a meathead, yeah. I'm not a Patriots fan. I know how good he was on the field. I won't take anything away from that. But if you want to host for WrestleMania, you're going to put him on there. I would have much rather had Mike Adamle. I'm just saying.
Oh man,
You could have had the anonymous Raw GM. I would have heard that beeping all night from the laptop over him.
Yeah. I really think, no kidding, every segment that Gronkowski was in, I felt like it sucked a little bit of the air out of the show. And that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people like him, and that's perfectly fine. But he was in the wrong spot, in my opinion. If they wanted to utilize him in the whole 24/7 championship thing, fine. I get it. That title does not mean a damn thing.
Right.
But host WrestleMania.
Yes.
To me, man, it just really just took it out of me.
Yeah. I was all down on that. I agree.
Okay. First match, they had the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. This was for the Women's Tag Team Championship. What was your opinion on having that match be the actual first match of the pay-per-view broadcast?
I'm a little old school when it comes to starting a show. I feel like you got to start it off with a little really hot, you know. I don't think that match did that. No offense to the women. I don't want to come off, I don't want to come off sounding sexist about women's wrestling. I'm not against it. I've never been a huge fan of it. There's certain ones that I can sit and watch, and there's some that I really can't get into. Nothing against any of the performers. I thought it ran a little too long, honestly.
I have that in my notes.
And I'm not Wade Keller or any of those guys, but I'll tell you, I don't know if you should start off WrestleMania with that match.
No, I could not agree more. I think I would have rather had them open with Corbin and Elias. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but I too felt like the match was way too long. You should not have your opening match be 25 plus minutes. We did see the titles change hands. The popular team of Cross and Bliss would win the championships. That was fine. I was fine with that. Because they really need something to do for those two. I kind of felt like a lot of the steam had been sucked away from that team after building them up for so long. But they haven't really had the time or the platform really to really get people engaged in this match, I think. I mean, there was an underlying storyline there. I get that, but they really didn't hype that match as part of WrestleMania. So I kind of feel like they did a misstep there opening the pay-per-view with that match. I gave it a C-.
Yeah, I would agree with that grade. I might even go D. I wouldn't say they failed, but I just don't think you start out a pay-per-view in general, let alone WrestleMania, let alone this WrestleMania in this situation like that. Now, I know pre-taped, whatever, they could edit it and throw together the card however they wanted. I don't agree with how they chose to put that as the opening match, but yeah, I wasn't a fan of it.
No.
Kudos to Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, though. They are really good performers. I will say that.
Sure. Yep. We saw a pre-taped backstage promo with Kayla Braxton. She was talking with Sami Zayn and Cesaro and Nakamura. A typical Zayn promo. Great on the mic. I gave that segment a B-. What did you think?
I love everything he does on the mic. I couldn't agree more. He's looking like Prince Harry is what I told you.
Yeah.
And you said your son said the same thing. And he does. He pops off the screen now with this persona. You know, he's not doing that ska dancing anymore, which I was a fan of, but I like heel Sami Zayn way better. Yeah,
I was not a fan of face Sami Zayn. He just annoyed the shit out of me, to be honest with you. The one funny thing here while we were watching, when he took his hat off, my daughter, who is 6 years old, says, "Why is his hair so poofy?" So then Austin went, well, he looks like Prince Harry. So when you said that, when you and I were texting back and forth,
yeah,
like, man, yeah,
he does.
King Corbin and Elias. man, they had the feud. They had a build up for the match with them with Corbin. Now I am digging King Corbin. I think he is one of the top 5 heels in the company right now,
Yep.
if not in the entire wrestling business.
Yes.
I loved how he as soon as he walks out, asshole, right? I mean, just the way he presents himself, I felt like he kept looking to the crowd too much. I
Yep.
wish they would not do that because it makes it painfully obvious that this is not normal.
Yes.
Elias, I was glad to see him get an actual match on WrestleMania this
Yep.
year. I'm afraid that if they don't start capitalizing on this guy more, they're going to miss the boat with him.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of both those guys. I've always said I think ever since the reinvention, Corbin is probably the best heel in WWE and probably second best heel in all of wrestling. I still think MJF is. I mean, they're both pricks in their own way. But to your point, I love both guys. I root for them both. I would have been happy with either outcome. You can't write a better script for Elias. No more doing a concert in front of a big crowd and getting interrupted by John Cena or someone. It was nice to see him actually have a match, like you said. It felt a little weird, both guys wrestling in their shirts at first. Now, I didn't know if that was like, are they supposed to not touch? I didn't know. And then when I seen the shirts come off, I was like, okay, well, maybe it was just, they weren't really thinking. No crowd. Maybe it wasn't as hot in there as it normally is with all the lights.
Right.
But I liked it. I did. I liked the match. I like both guys, though, so.
Elias picked up the victory with a schoolboy handful of tights. We saw a more aggressive version of Elias, probably the meanest that we have ever seen him, because he's always been kind of more lighthearted with the whole, even as a heel. I mean, his heat came from his promos, and the one that sticks out was when he and Kevin Owens were in Seattle, and they Elias made a comment about their basketball team leaving Seattle and the amount of heat that he got from that.
Yeah,
that's other than that. But as an in-ring performer, that was the most aggressive that we've seen him, I think, and I think he really needs to capitalize on that. Mm-hmm. I gave that match a B-.
I would agree. I thought it didn't go too long. Had like a perfect timing. The match was set up really well, I thought, for both guys. They both, got their stuff in, whatever you want to say, and I thought it was solid on both counts. I would agree with that. It was a good match.
Yes, very good. What I'm not digging, though, Chris, is why in the hell are we seeing non-WWE ads on the pay-per-view? There was a goddamn Papa John's ad. What? When did this become a thing? Did the people who ordered the pay-per-view through satellite or cable, are they watching those ads too, I wonder?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't remember any sort of commercial when I would buy a pay-per-view back before the network was around. You'd see maybe a merchandise commercial and a build up to next month's pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. And maybe even, catch Monday Night Raw tomorrow night.
Right. But it was something always revolving with, even if it had a wrestler on the ad, that I can see. This was your papadilla or whatever the hell it is, this new sandwich that they got. That's what we saw. And I wrote that in my notes. What the fuck? There's a Papa John's ad on here. That's what I wrote. But whatever.
That's a little weird. That's kabuki-ish.
I love you for that. All right. Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler for the Raw Women's Championship. Great pre-match. Okay. Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler. Raw Women's title. Great video package. Kind of brought the whole thing in together. People who may not have understood why these two were wrestling. I thought it was a great video package. Decent match, I thought. Well-told story between both of them. Becky Lynch gets the win with the roll-up. I was kind of thinking Shayna was going to be the one that emerged with the title. I thought that the timing was perfect for her to take the title because legitimately, there's no way Becky Lynch is beating a Shayna Baszler.
I actually put the same thing. It was a great match, and I put, would the outcome have been the same if they were actually at the Tampa Bay Stadium in front of that big crowd?
That's a good point.
I feel like Shayna should have had her moment. She turned the Elimination Chamber into her personal toy room.
Yep.
She killed the Women's Royal Rumble. She is the best thing to come out of NXT in a while. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
She is the best thing to come out of NXT, I think, in a while, and that's until Adam Cole comes up. But at the same time, I thought the match was awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was a very good match, and I am not a Becky Lynch fan by any stretch of the imagination. I know a lot of people like her.
Yeah,
I know they're doing everything they can to make her the female version of Steve Austin, which it's not there for me, man.
I can't see it. No.
And Shayna Baszler is such a legitimate badass. I mean, you can tell just by looking at her, even if you didn't know her backstory and her history as a cage fighter and all this stuff. I mean, I gave the match a B because I thought it was a well orchestrated match. I just didn't like the outcome of it.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
I really think there's got to be a rematch, and they got to flip the title. I think you don't want to miss the boat. I'm not going to drop a hint at who they missed the boat on, but I will say it later when we talk about that match. But they can't let that happen with her.
No, because she is one of those, especially in the women's, with the women division, she stands out above everybody else, in my opinion. There's like three of them that are, in my opinion, at the very top. Shayna is one of those.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. We move on here. We saw, in the fifth segment, we saw Daniel Bryan take on Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship, one of the most prestigious titles in WWE history, in the wrestling business, really. You look at the list of guys who have held that championship, and I felt like for a long time that title was being trashed.
It was
by the way that they presented it, by the way they handled it. But you look at guys, Tito Santana, Don Morocco, Randy Savage, Mr. Perfect, Bret Hart, Roddy Piper. I mean, you go down the line.
It's your workhorse title.
What's that?
That's your workhorse title.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And for a lot of them, it was that next step before going to the main event and becoming the WWE champion.
Exactly. And that's how I always looked at it as a kid. That guy's the Intercontinental Champion. His next step, he's going to be the world champion.
Yep. And, I mean, back then, when we were kids, that generally was the case.
You were the number one contender.
Yeah. Yep. They missed the boat, like with the Mr. Perfect. Mr. Perfect probably should have been the WWF champion at some point in his career.
Rick Rude, too.
Yeah, good. That's a very, very good one. This was a great match, I thought. It was a very well-told match. Sami Zayn playing that chicken shit heel.
Yep.
Daniel Bryan being Daniel Bryan. I was surprised by the win. I thought Daniel Bryan was going to win the title here, or if he wasn't going to win the title, I thought it was going to be because Gulak, who was in his corner, was going to turn on him. That did not happen. Sami Zayn picked up a pinfall victory over Daniel Bryan. I gave it a B. I
would give it a B, a B plus. I said you keep the title chase going that way, and maybe even you throw Shorty G with those two, and you make it a three, a team type situation. But you keep that title chase going. You keep it on Sami Zayn, who did play the chicken shit heel, and I really enjoyed that match. His facials when he gives that haluva kick now,
Yeah.
and looks like he's convulsing, I absolutely love it.
The next match, kind of weird for me. We had a triple threat, one on one for the tag team titles.
Makes sense to me.
For the SmackDown tag team titles, you had John Morrison, Kofi Kingston, and Jimmy Uso. Now, had this been for the United States title or the Intercontinental title, I could have bought into it a little bit more. Mentally, I could have been more invested in it. But the fact that you had singles guys for the tag team championship, and I kind of understand the reasoning behind it. You can't be having all that, you can't be having 6 guys out there in such a confined space.
Yep.
Had this been in the stadium, we probably wouldn't have seen it this way. However, it is what it is. Very acrobatic, I thought. Very choreographed opening spots. It was okay. There was some sick bumps in it, as you would imagine with these 3 guys. Take nothing away from them. For Kofi, I felt like this was kind of a step back for him based on what he did last year, winning the WWE Championship from Daniel Bryan last year at WrestleMania. For all intents and purposes, I thought the ending spot was creative, with Morrison having them, all 3 guys having it, then Morrison falling off onto another ladder with the belts. Okay, I get it. I was happy that Morrison and, for all intents and purposes, Miz retained the titles. I gave the match a B+ because of all things considered, but it is what it is. I would have, if they wanted to go this route, I wish it wasn't for the tag team titles. You should have a tag team match for the tag team titles. That's just me being old school.
Yeah, I gave it a C because it was really weird. You don't have the wide shots. You don't have the crowd. You don't feel that mystique and that aura that they're actually climbing that big ladder and reaching for that. Mm-hmm. And it lost a little bit of mystique for me. All those guys are great competitors. You know what they can do individually. You know what they can do as a team. That Starship Pain that he kind of did, that parkour move, while I think Jimmy Uso was laying on the ladder, was amazing. But this brings the question, next month, what are they going to do at Money in the Bank? It's going to be filmed weird. It's going to look weird. And can you have 6 to 8 guys confined in that area with what's going on outside in the coronavirus?
This match right here proves to me, anyway, unless they do something really creative, you really can't. Because if you're going to have that many guys involved in a ladder match, why wasn't the entire tag team for all 3 of these teams involved in a match at WrestleMania?
You better do some sort of tournament and then have a one-on-one briefcase ladder match.
Something. They're going to have to do something. Now, we go to the 7th match, or the 7th segment. To me, this is the match that stole night 1.
It was my second favorite match of the entire pay-per-view. Okay,
Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. This was the ultimate payoff. They did everything perfectly with this match. The setup, 6 months of storyline before the virus and the empty buildings and everything. They started planting the seeds back in November with this thing.
Yep.
And I was happy that it was a one-on-one match. Rollins looked like Rollins does. You even in an empty building, even with the circumstances, the way
he makes you forget that arena's empty. Your eyes are locked on him.
Yeah. He came out looking like $1 million. The all white outfit, I absolutely loved it. Kevin Owens being Kevin Owens, the whole KO Mania 4 shirt, absolutely love it. Man, sick bumps though by Owens on that ring apron, and I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, my friend, when they say that the ring apron is the hardest part of the ring, I can attest to you that it is. So to see that guy as big as he is, what is he, 280?
He's got to be 280, yeah.
I mean, to be taking bumps like that on the ring apron, and there's not a whole lot of room between the ropes and the edge of that ring. Right. Man, he's as tough as nails as far as I'm concerned. Very logical match, very well executed. I was shocked, and I actually had to scribble out part of my notes because I thought that they were going to go with the DQ ending, which pissed me off.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they restarted it in the no DQ thing, the jump off the top of the WrestleMania sign through the table, I mean, we've seen high spots like that done over and over again. But for whatever reason, this stood out on the show, probably because we didn't see a whole lot of that other than the ladder match. I was very, very happy that Owens got the victory. I thought he needed that win a lot more than Rollins did, and Rollins proved on Monday Night Raw that he did not need that win to still be Seth Rollins. I gave it an A-.
Yep.
But for all intents and purposes, this was the match of the night for me.
It was for me too. I put, amazing storytelling. Those are two of my favorite guys on the WWE roster right now. I do believe it was awesome how Seth tried chicken shitting himself out of the match, and KO suckered him back in, and he came back and did the no disqualification thing. I don't know if you heard this, but KO said if this was at the Tampa Bay Stadium, that jump was going to be a lot higher and more significant from what he actually did at the Performance Center.
I could see that because there's no telling what that set would have looked like in the stadium. With the whole pirate theme, I imagined that they were going to have some sort of huge pirate ship or something like that. I could see him going to the top of the mast or something like that.
Yeah, I also think if it was outside, we probably would have saw the return of Samoa Joe, maybe to take out Murphy at ringside to keep that going. Like you said, that storytelling for the past 6 months has been just amazing. Even with the injury to Razor, they still kept Akam there. Now they're taking Akam out, and Murphy can't show up because he quarantined himself, and he's one of my favorites. And I love Joe. And, there's so much stuff that can still be told with that story. And it's interesting to see who could be some new followers of that Rollins cult. Yeah,
very good point. We saw in the Gronk and Mojo promo, R-Truth runs in. Mojo wins the 24/7 title. I gave it a big F.
Mm-hmm.
But thank God they followed that up with a Paul Heyman promo backstage. Classic Paul Heyman. That man can do no wrong when he has a microphone in his hand.
Or a pencil.
Yeah. All right. So night one of WrestleMania kind of had a double main event, right? We had the Boneyard match. We'll talk about that here in a second. They went to, and I thought that this really was the right way to format the show. Goldberg and Braun Strowman for the Universal Championship. Originally, this was going to be Goldberg and Roman Reigns. When I had heard that they were going to go that route, it was, in my opinion, a foregone conclusion that Reigns would win the Universal title.
Yep.
Because if anybody can get people to cheer for Roman Reigns at this point, it's Bill Goldberg.
Yep.
I am over the Goldberg thing.
Yep.
I have never been a Goldberg fan, to be honest with you. But the way that they shit on Bray Wyatt to put that title unnecessarily, in my opinion, on Goldberg. Goldberg does not need that title. He's got the name, even if I like him or not, he's got a name.
Mm-hmm.
You put him on the card, and people that like him are going to buy into it. He did not need this championship. However, I was glad that Braun Strowman finally has his world title.
I put 2.5 years too late. That should have happened at SummerSlam 17. when he wrestled Brock. That's my opinion. That's when he was red hot. You know, you could go back and say it was when he was tipping shit over and pulling everything down and crushing Roman Reigns. He can work so good for as big as he is. The guy can fly. He can move. But you can't make me believe that he is a face. You got to make that guy a mean asshole heel.
Yeah.
And I think that attitude's going to happen.
I totally agree with that. I think he works a lot better as a heel, right? Because he's just looking at him. That's not somebody I'm going to have at a birthday party, right? He's big. He's menacing looking.
Yep.
I thought it was a good time for the match. You had literally two moves in this thing. It was either a spear or a power slam.
Yes.
I was glad to see that Strowman finally won his world title. I agree with you. It was 2 years too late. They should have let him take the title from Lesnar a couple of years ago. But at the same time, was he mentally ready for that role? Nobody can really say. But behind the scenes, I think he has learned a lot, as based on what the company expects from him in this role. And time will tell, right? Yeah. Because, depending on how long they let him be the face of SmackDown. Now, SmackDown is a whole different animal than Raw now, just because of the investment that Fox has put on that brand. So now that Strowman is the flag bearer, with the title, it's going to be very interesting to see how they go about that. I gave the match a C. I thought it was perfect timing. Yeah. But the match itself is not going to win any match of the year, awards.
No, it was what it was. You put a Goldberg and a Brock Lesnar match. It's not going to last more than 5 minutes unless you throw Seth Rollins in there.
Right.
But other than that, they're not workhorses per se. Mm-hmm. But it was what it was. Believe me, I'm happy Goldberg don't have that title. You and me, we talked personally many times about how Bray got screwed, and I read some stuff when we get to the Bray Wyatt match. I'll bring it up a little bit if I remember, but he shouldn't have lost that. There's no reason to put that title on him. You trying to pop ratings in Saudi Arabia? I mean, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah. Okay, Goldberg. As far as I'm concerned, if I never see Bill Goldberg in a WWE ring again, I'm totally fine with that.
I think Bret Hart's head and Conrad Thompson agree.
Yeah. That takes us to main event, or the last segment of night one, the Boneyard match between The Undertaker and AJ Styles. Now, self-admittedly, anybody who knows me on a personal level knows what a huge fan of The Undertaker I am. Have been for 30 years, right? I mean, the guy has been an institution for WWE. It was one of these pre-taped on-location gimmicks, which we knew it would be because they weren't going to bring a cemetery into the performance center. I wasn't sure what to expect on this, Chris, and I mean I knew it was going to be pre-taped. I knew it was going to be shot on location. I thought the hearse scene was well done. The Druids opening the casket, I was shocked when they opened it and AJ Styles was in there. I think AJ Styles, as his name says, he is absolutely phenomenal. And as we all expected, it was the American Badass that showed up, not the Undertaker as we know him. The music, man, the background music just kind of took it away from me.
Yeah, pretty hokey and silly at times.
I just it felt like professional wrestling meets a horror flick, an 80s horror flick. And then as it kept going on and all the different nuances and stuff like this, I felt like I was watching a 1999/2000 WCW match with Vampiro.
Exactly. I didn't think of that, but that's exactly what it was. We were just missing Sting catching himself on fire. The choke slam off the shed with 3 different camera angles, like you were watching an old Jean-Claude Van Damme Bloodsport movie.
Yeah.
Didn't really do it for me. It was awesome. I popped with the American Badass. That was always one of my favorite characters of The Undertaker. So that was awesome to see that. And it was kind of like a mix of the Dead Man with the American Badass. Yeah. He had the Taker symbol and leather on his vest, and it was really well done. I mean, that guy, can't wait for that show on the network.
Right.
But he's one of the all-time, one of the GOATs. That's easy to say.
Yeah, if he's not on, I don't know why he's not thought of to be on more Mount Rushmores.
It's because people talk about who made the money and who was the best in the ring. If you want to talk about that, I understand. Fine. Ric Flair, Stone Cold, Hulk Hogan, I get it. But if you want to talk about character, there's never been a better character. Not even close.
No, and there never will be.
No.
I mean, it would have to be something really... Bray Wyatt could be.
Right. He's got to reinvent himself constantly like Taker did.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to go away. Make the people want you.
Right. Taker, for all intents and purposes, wins the match. There were aspects of that whole presentation that I appreciated, but like you said, the multiple camera angles, the way it was shot, they build it as a boneyard match. So yes. I was looking for more of a match of some sort in a graveyard, whatever. I came away from it like, okay, yeah, I get it, but it's not going to be it's not going to be my go-to Undertaker match. You know, not like his matches with Shawn Michaels. Even the one with Batista that should have main evented WrestleMania in 07 in Detroit.
23, yeah.
But, you know, it was what it was. I was happy that he got the win because I did not want to see him lose another WrestleMania match. He should have never lost at WrestleMania. Not to Lesnar, not to Reigns, nobody.
No.
He should have maintained that streak for as long as he wants to wrestle for.
Yeah, exactly. That was what he was, you know, not the only thing, but he was known for that. When it came around WrestleMania season, it was who's going to be the next notch on that belt.
Right. Yeah, once he lost to Lesnar, it really took a lot of the sting of WrestleMania from me personally. Just being a huge Undertaker fan, I was happy to see that Gallows and Anderson were involved in that.
Me too.
The scene with the Druids coming out of the barn when they knocked the wall down, that was well done.
That was memorable, yeah.
But again, it was what it was. I gave it a B. I mean, just because of the entire presentation. Again, the background music, a little bit too hokey for me.
Yeah, I'd give it a B- if I gave it a grade. At the end of the day, it was still better than him and Giant Gonzalez.
God damn, pal. Okay, we move on to night 2. This was on Sunday night. Same thing. They did the pre-show, simulcast on FS1. Again, in my notes here, I wrote their presentation on Fox Sports and ESPN gives WWE that light of legitimacy as far as an actual sport. I thought, but what in the hell was Corey Graves wearing? That jacket with the flowers on it, a little bit too much for me, bro.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, you go right back to the Jesse the Body Ventura. He's popping off the screen. I mean, I've never been a huge fan of Corey Graves, but he gets the job done whenever he's on screen. That's for sure.
Yeah, very true story. The pre-match or the pre-show match for night 2, a little bit different. They went with a women's match. Natalya Neidhart, one of the absolute best in the ring. You know, very influential as far as the women's revolution goes. Liv Morgan was her opponent. This I did not realize, but this was Natalia's seventh match at a WrestleMania. I did not know that.
Me neither. Nope.
It was a decent match for pre-shows. A little bit sloppy in some spots. Natalya just proves why she is one of the absolute best in-ring performers. I mean, as far as carrying on that Hart legacy, she's there.
She can make people look much better too. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
She can make people look much better than they actually are, and that's not a knock on Liv Morgan. I'm rooting for her. I had to look to make sure my fiance's not around. I like her a lot, so. But I do think Natty she's that ring general.
Yeah.
And I hope that's not what she becomes, where it's a new talent, call Natty to make them look better. Right. She doesn't need to be jobbing out all the time.
No, I certainly agree. And I was pissed off that Liv Morgan picked up the win here. Because I think Natalya, because of her longevity in the company and her skill set, she needs to be showcased more. She needs to be in the hunt for either the Raw or the SmackDown Women's Championships, in my opinion. I gave the match a C.
Yeah.
Liv Morgan, you know, I understand where you're coming from, but I gotta be honest with you, man. There is nothing about her for me that really stands out. In fact, I get her confused with Mandy Rose because they're so similar, right?
I totally see that. The best thing that could have happened for her was still to have those pigtails and the crazy tongue and, you know, the Harley Quinn type feel.
Right.
And yeah, she lost that when she reinvented herself after the Rusev Lashley fiasco that we won't really touch. But I mean, yeah. And then the next night, you have her lose to Asuka in a singles match. I mean, what were you building?
Nothing. And that's been the biggest criticism for WWE at this point for the last couple of years. This 50-50 booking is not getting the shit done. You're not going to build stars like that.
Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to see when you start doing a storyline with someone, I don't want them to win every single match. Mm-hmm. You know, because then you kind of know what's coming. But when you lose, you shouldn't lose the very next match. Maybe win, maybe lose in a shitty way, maybe get cheated out of a victory. But you can't go 1 for 1, 1 for 1, 1 for 1. You're back on main event or superstars.
Right. Yeah. We switched over to the pay-per-view, same format as night one. Stephanie McMahon was back out there, a different opening promo.
Yep.
For lack of better words. Again, very well done. She not nearly as long as night one, but you didn't have to. Mm-hmm. I thought she did great. She's a good representative for the company. The opening package was the same as night one, which that's cool. I can understand why they did that, especially when they go to repackage this thing to be on the WWE network, to go back and watch it on demand or DVD distribution, whatever the case may be. So I get it. Rob Gronkowski opens this thing up, and I have it in big, bold letters, fucking idiot.
Yeah, get off my TV. I mean,
why are you here?
Very annoying.
They kind of went, in my opinion, the opposite in terms of format from night one. Especially as we get later in the card. They did open it up with another women's title match. This one, however, was a lot better than night one. You had Rhea Ripley putting her NXT women's title against Charlotte Flair. Now, Chris, I understand where your head's at as far as women's wrestling goes. And I can totally appreciate that. In my opinion, Charlotte Flair is the absolute best in-ring performer in WWE, men or women.
Okay. I do think she is the best in the female roster. I don't think it's even close with the things she can do and the shit she puts her body through. Like, honestly, she takes a beating. She does.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that was the best women's match out of all of them, and it wasn't even close. Rhea Ripley she's got talent too.
She opened a lot of people's eyes, I think. Even in a losing effort,
Yeah,
she became a bona fide star on Sunday night, in my opinion. And a lot of that goes on Charlotte. I mean, Charlotte, just the little nuances that she did, like when she turned her back to the entrance when Ripley was walking down the ramp, I thought was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
It's those little things, and you could tell, Charlotte Flair is a Flair. You know what I'm saying? That's something that her dad would have done. And she's incorporating more and more of that into her presentation, but making it her own, right? I thought the match went a little bit too long for another opening match, but it had my attention. And it didn't make me keep looking at the clock like, God dang, how long is this match going to go on?
Exactly. I didn't do that either. I think the thing I thought after it was over was, where are they going to go from here? Is Charlotte going to only be on Wednesdays in NXT? Is she going to defend that title on all 3 shows? Are there going to be NXT female wrestlers on those other shows chasing the title? I mean, there's so many options you can do now.
Well, we've seen several NXT performers on Monday Night Raw last night.
Yeah.
Now I try to pay closer attention to NXT now, especially now that it's on the USA Network, and it's more, I don't have to fire up the PlayStation and go through all of the crap to get to the WWE Network. It's on the USA Network.
It's right on your TV. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, a couple of them I didn't know who they were because I haven't seen them as much, but you're starting to see more NXT talent on a mainstream level. I think Rhea Ripley, she became a superstar. I mean, I know a lot of people have rallied behind her since she won the title from Shayna Baszler some time back, but this match on WrestleMania against Charlotte Flair made her a bona fide star.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And
I give it a B+.
I would agree. That was a really well done match. And kudos to the Dragon Ball Z outfit she was rocking.
I was texting with my friend Brian during the course of WrestleMania, especially on Sunday night. And the match with Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley could, in both of our opinions, could have been the sleeper match, the match that not a lot of people were paying attention to going into the show. But I thought, for all intents and purposes, with no storyline build up, it was a cold match. It was one of those, like, it was a throwback from WrestleMania, like one of the early WrestleManias. They like George Wells and Jake the Snake.
Right.
In WrestleMania 2. Why did that match happen? It didn't matter. It put Jake over. He became a star, Aleister Black is somebody special. And he and Bobby Lashley, for all intents and purposes, had a great match.
Yeah, I agree. I was a big Bobby Lashley fan in the mid-2000s when he first popped up and, rooted for him and all that. When he came back, I was hoping to see him in Brock. We haven't seen that.
Right.
And everything they've done with them has kind of been kind of cold to me. The little group they did with him and Braun, and I can't remember who else when they were together for a while. I just haven't been really engulfed in his character. And then they do the Rusev and Lana thing, and I feel like you've seen it. She cost them the match. You're going to break that up already. You invested all this time and effort into that storyline, and it's going kaput already.
Right. Lana. Look, I appreciate her. I thought she was great with Rusev. I thought they were a perfect package.
Yep.
Even with, she's trying to reinvent herself. She's got the darker hair now, and like at first I didn't recognize her when she first walked down on stage. I'm like, well, who the hell is that? And then they said it was Lana, right? But man, Aleister Black, though, this guy has it. He is the next breakout star, I think, as long as they don't miss the boat on him. He had a match last night on Raw with Apollo Crews.
Mini Ezekiel Jackson, I said.
That could have been a pay-per-view quality match.
Yeah, you talk about the match that he had with Lashley. You flip-flop Apollo Crews in there. That match was awesome. I know a lot of people were bitching online about headlock. Well, that's the wrestling I grew up on Superstars and Wrestling Challenge. You go to a commercial, you come back from it with a headlock. That match was awesome. It told a story. Their limbs were getting worked over. Apollo Crews has always been good. Those guys have had a match back in the Indies, Yuha Nation versus Tommy End. You can find it on YouTube, I think. I mean, those guys just do that. They had great chemistry. There was no talking during that match. Mm-hmm. They weren't talking to each other like they normally do. They just had it mapped out in their brains. They've probably done it a million times on the indie circuit. But it was awesome to see. It told a great story.
It was legitimate, right? Yes. I mean, there wasn't a lot of these goddamn high spots. You know, we'll get to that when we do the. I'll get to that at the end of the show because
we'll get to that when
I've got something to say
high spot.
Oh man. We seen the backstage promo. Kayla Braxton was with Bayley and Sasha Banks. Your typical Bayley and Sasha Banks promo. It was what it was. Otis and Dolph Ziggler. I was shocked that for Dolph's first one-on-one match at WrestleMania, it was against a tag team guy, and I understand there's a little bit of steam behind Otis. He's very fun-loving. He's cool. I get it. They had a storyline going into the match.
Yep.
Very, very predictable though. Mandy Rose coming out to counterpart Sonya Deville. I was a little bit surprised that Otis was the one who would pick up the victory. I thought Ziggler would get a win, even if it was in a chicken shit way.
Yeah.
I gave the match a C.
I put B-. I thought it was kind of fun, it was a good match to watch. I enjoyed it. I thought the ending when he was carrying her out reminded me of WrestleMania 7, Macho and Liz. Ooh, yeah. Maybe not on that level, but it was good to see. I like the whole story, and I think really what it's doing is it's opening the truth will be told character.
Yeah. I was a little bit bummed. I feel bad for Tucker. Otis's tag team partner in Heavy Machinery, nowhere to be found, really, as far as in-ring action. I thought maybe they would have had him on the pre-show on night 2. Nowhere to be found on that, and I feel kind of bad for him. But Ziggler, he gets his one-on-one match. The guy, everybody calls him Shawn Michaels 2.0, but, the guy is talented. I wish
he sure doesn't get pushed like Shawn Michaels. He sure doesn't get pushed like Shawn Michaels.
No, certainly does not. The next match is the one everybody was waiting for. This last man standing match between Edge and Randy Orton.
Yep.
Classic storytelling. We weren't really sure how they were going to incorporate the whole last man standing thing. I have almost a page of notes on this match alone because it went so damn long. I felt like it went too long, in my opinion.
I actually put a little too long as well.
It was cool to see the different areas of the Performance Center that we wouldn't have necessarily seen going into the garage. I found myself as this match went on when they went into like the gym area, although Orton tried to Benoit Edge on the exercise equipment.
Too soon, too, right after Dark Side of the Ring. I think the hardcore fans that watch anything that's wrestling on TV caught that.
Yeah.
And I definitely caught it. That was the first thing that popped in my mind. I'm like, You guys wrestled with that guy, and you're doing this?
Yeah. I thought some of the camera shots were not well done. Obviously, there was a split second when they went into like the conference room area. There was an office door open, and you seen Vince McMahon sitting in there. Very brief. But
yeah,
like, holy shit, there was Vince.
You'd probably fire up the network right now, and it's already gone.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
I was texting with my friend Brian, and I was like, did you just see Vince? And he's like, no, I didn't. I was like, that's because it happened that quick. So, yeah. What else did I have on here? It was what it was. I mean, it was a good. The ref sucked. I don't know what that ref's name is. I felt like he was trying to be more a part of that match than he should have been. Just the way he presented himself, the way he presented the counting. I'm like, dude, this ain't about you. Get the hell off my screen.
Even in the very
not see you.
Even in the very beginning, when Orton crept up from the cameraman position, you got to stand up, Edge. You got to stand up. Come on, man. Back off. We know.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, I had that. I had that in my notes. The ending spot I dug on top of the truck with the concerto and everything. Predictable, yeah, but I appreciated it. You know, you could see the emotion on Edge's face.
Yeah.
You know, take all of the negatives away from it. Orton and Edge perfectly matched against each other, proved why they are in the positions that they are in the company. Edge with the win. He should have got the win based on the big comeback. And if you watch his 24 thing on the network, you can really appreciate that more. Because of the length of it, though, I knocked it down a little bit. I gave it a C+.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. I would have gave it a B. And maybe, Edge is, that's my all-time favorite wrestler. I got his tattooed right there on me as well. I thought that match benefited having an empty arena.
Okay.
That's one of those matches where it's going to go all around. Mm-hmm. We've been at events when they do a match that spills out and goes for a long time. You feel kind of gypped that you're looking at the screen almost the whole time. Mm-hmm. Where it's everyone's in the same venue. You're all watching it together. I thought the match was pretty good. It did go a little long. It told a good story. I'm going to agree that the ref kind of inserted himself a little more than he should have. But, I was pumped to see Edge in great shape. And him and Orton, they have chemistry. They always have. And I thought it's just like a fine wine. With age, it gets even better.
Yeah. Yeah, Edge, very, very well done. They follow that up with Gronkowski winning the 24/7 title. Big F for that segment, in my opinion. F for fucking stupid and waste of time on the pay-per-view. They picked it back up, though. The Raw Tag Team Championship was on the line. The Street Profits, man.
Money.
Montez Ford is a star waiting to be made, in my opinion.
Got that right.
They took on Austin Theory and Angel Garza, who I wasn't really sure what I would think about these two as a tag team, because they just threw that together the week going into WrestleMania.
Yep.
I thought, man, Theory and Garza could be a good team. They had a lot of chemistry there, and with Zelina Vega kind of filling in the voids there, this wound up being a better match than I thought it would.
For a quick replacement for Andrade, I thought they told a good story. You listen to Byron Saxton and Tom Phillips. Oh, the business associate, another one of her clients, filling you in. Like, why is this guy here? Well, they tell you that. Austin Theory, if you watch that Evolve special that they did on the network about a year ago or so,
right,
he just stood head and shoulders above everyone else there. There's a reason why he's in NXT. He could really become a star in his own right. And I'll get to it before you do. Introducing Bianca Belair to the main roster. That's the best way to do it.
Yep.
She has money and she is so marketable. I feel like she is going to be a huge star in the women's division. She could be a face or a heel. We've seen it. If you've watched NXT, she could be both. And I think she's going to have chemistry with someone like Montez Ford and even Angelo Dawkins. That's going to be a good team to kind of watch. They're gonna steal the show whenever the camera's on them.
Yeah. And we actually seen that last night on Monday Night Raw. I mean, those 6 individuals.
Yes.
You know, the Street Profits, Bianca, Theory, Garza, and Vega. I mean, they were on there for almost an hour.
Yes.
You know, through multiple segments, you know, and I wasn't bored with it.
No.
I was very entertained by all 6 of them. So the Street Profits are the greatest thing. They are the greatest tag team to come up from NXT at this point, in my opinion. The Viking Raiders, man, I really wanted them to be more than what they are now. They tried. I don't know what's missing from them. The Ascension, I thought could have been something special. They shit all over them. I mean, from day one when they came up onto the main roster, I feel like they have money here with the Street Profits.
Yeah, not to mention Sanity and a couple of the other ones that they created down in NXT. It happens quite a bit. I don't know if they call it the Vince McMahon curse. Triple H has his fingerprints on all those guys down there. They get brought up, and Vince just doesn't see what everyone else sees, is what we hear. And I do see that probably. I'm not a genius. Vince McMahon is. But some of the things he does miss on.
Sure. We've seen Titus O'Neil. Thank God for Titus O'Neil coming in and replacing Gronk as the WrestleMania host.
I think on screen, he was on screen twice, I think, and it was better than every time Gronk was on.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
From there, we went to the 5 women SmackDown Women's Championship match. Sasha Banks, Lacey Evans, Naomi, Tamina Snuka, and Bayley. And I thought this was a one fall, matchup. I was shocked when they started talking about eliminations. I really thought this was going to be Lacey Evans' night to take the SmackDown Women's title. It came right down to the end of it. And I really thought that she was going to be the one to get the title and kind of start a feud with Sasha and Bayley. Bayley gets the win, though, and it winds up being a better match than I thought it was going to be. So I gave it a C+.
Yeah.
It was pretty well done for having that many moving parts in it.
I agree. I thought we were going to see the seeds planted for a face turn for Sasha.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really see that. I do believe they could have, but I don't know if you caught this. When Lacey went for her finisher, the woman's right, on Bayley, and Bayley kind of dodged it and threw it the other way, and it hit Sasha. Mm-hmm. I feel like she probably spun her the wrong way, or Lacey threw it the wrong way. If you kind of look how she spun her into it.
Right.
But I thought it was a pretty good match for what it was, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I didn't have high expectations at all. But it was what it was. Bayley picks up the win. She's still the SmackDown Women's Champion, and they can go a number of ways with this thing. I'm going to kind of skip over 10. I want to talk about that last.
I agree 100%. That's how it should be done.
But the last match on the broadcast was the Brock Lesnar-Drew McIntyre match for the WWE Championship. This should have been in its spot where it was Drew McIntyre winning the Royal Rumble, gets the shot at Brock Lesnar, the Beast Incarnate, the Unstoppable Monster. This should have been the last in-ring match for the entire weekend. They did that well. Drew McIntyre finally gets his spot. He is the WWE champion. The match was what it was. It was, it was either a German suplex, an F5, or a Claymore kick.
Yep.
Paul Heyman at his absolute best.
I put that down.
McIntyre wins the title, and I gave the match an A-. I thought it was perfectly done, especially what we had seen in the segment before that match.
Yep.
This was the perfect way to end WrestleMania weekend. I was really bummed out for Drew that this did not happen in a packed Raymond James Stadium.
I put that down.
But the guy is going to make the most of his opportunity, because I feel like in real life, take the sportsmanship and the showmanship out of it, this title actually means something to Drew McIntyre.
I totally agree. I put pretty much everything down that you said. I believe he deserved it in front of a huge crowd. I kind of compared it to, just imagine if last year Kofi Mania was in an empty arena, would it have felt and meant as much?
Right.
Would you have been able, it would have, I don't know if it would have meant as much. Drew did deserve this regardless, empty arena or not. I loved hearing Paul Heyman shouting, "Look out," giving orders to Brock. It felt so real. You can always hear him in a packed arena.
Right.
But to hear it like that was just so awesome. And then, like you said, that was the way to end it. And really the way you ended it wasn't the pyro going off. It was him looking at the camera and mouthing "thank you." And that gave me chills. I feel like he was talking obviously to the universe, but I think he was thanking Vince too for not giving up on him and let him come back and prove that what you said, whether it was behind the scenes or in a storyline as the chosen one, you believed in me, and I'm going to make you feel good and prove that you were right. And I love that. I love that whole moment. And his WWE 24 is phenomenal too, if you haven't seen it.
And I actually watched that before his match, before night 2 of WrestleMania. So I had a different layer of appreciation for that moment. And yes. I think everybody, if you haven't watched that match with Lesnar, watch what was it? The Chronicle? The
Chronicle of Drew. Yeah, that was, watch that first.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Watch that.
Yes.
Watch that show first, then watch the match with Brock Lesnar. It doesn't go very long, 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Once the bell rings, but very good companion piece, and really gives you a better appreciation for Drew McIntyre as a man, as well as a professional wrestler. So I thought that was very well done.
Yep.
Now,
let's get to over here.
This is what made WrestleMania 36.
I posted it as soon as it happened. That just saved WrestleMania. I posted that. I truly believe it. Let's get into it, Jason.
Firefly Funhouse match. Bray Wyatt, the Fiend Bray Wyatt, and John Cena. Now, listen. You and I are a lot alike in the way that we view wrestling and how, what we think, what we like, what we don't like. We have disagreements from time to time. I was pissed off, admittedly, that they were going to put Bray Wyatt with John Cena. I thought John Cena coming back, oh man, are they just going to shit on Bray again? And when they came up with the whole Firefly Funhouse match, I immediately thought that they would go to, like they did with the Boneyard match, they would go to another, like, a on-location set. How are they going to, I thought it was just going to be in his little funhouse, right? But I wasn't sure what to expect, because the Fiend character and the whole setup for the whole evolution of this character, how was this going to translate into this kind of match? And I'm here to tell you, man, I was watching that match as they were airing it live, on the show. I was just like, I was on the edge of my seat. And it was the first time all weekend I was on the edge of my seat, because I wanted to see what they were going to do with it.
Yes.
When they had Cena come out on stage in the Performance Center, I'm like, what the hell? Are they going to actually do a match? And how are they going to, where's the Funhouse thing? When they did that next scene and Cena was kind of looking around and he was in the Funhouse set, yeah. I was like, Bruce Pritchard, you are amazing. And I said that out loud.
Me too.
Absolutely loved it.
And that's why I tagged you in that. We want to thank Bruce Pritchard and everyone at WWE, because I knew you felt the same way. Peek behind the curtain, whatever. We're diehard podcast listeners. We pretty much listen to the same thing, and we both love Bruce Pritchard, and we're going to give him a free pass here and there. But he busted his ass on that whole segment, you could see he dug up. He went into that. What do they call it? The museum where all the old sets and things are. You got the SmackDown fist, Yeah, I think that's all Bruce, because, him and Conrad did all those tours and checked stuff out. I guarantee you that stuff stuck out in his head, and he said, let's pick that. Let's get that Saturday Night's Main Event banner. Let's get this. He used
the big blue cage.
The big blue cage. Yeah. We're going to get into it more. It was phenomenal.
It was perfectly done to emphasize everything that the Fiend character
represents.
Man, and the fact that Cena played his role so well, and I am not a John Cena fan. I appreciate him for what he is.
For inside and
what he is.
I agree. Yep.
He played that role wholeheartedly. His role in that match was perfectly done.
He embraced it.
Yeah. Yes, and you could tell the camera's not going to lie, right? If you are not wholeheartedly invested in
it's going to catch it.
Yeah. But this was absolutely perfect. And, a lot of people didn't like it. And that's perfectly fine. I understand that. You didn't like it because you didn't get all the little, some of them very, very subtle references.
Well,
I've been a wrestling fan for years and I understand everything that went on. No, asshole, you did not. You did not understand, because if you did, you would have appreciated it more.
You're referencing that Ohio jerk-off. We won't say my name.
Well, there was other people. You go on Twitter, man.
Oh, yeah.
Twitter is absolutely nasty.
Well, the social media is terrible.
Yeah. And it was perfect. Just, man.
So before we break down the segments in the match,
mm-hmm.
Let's break down what the Fiend represents for a second. I kind of want to do that.
Yeah.
You look at what he does, okay? And this is going to go back to what I said earlier about bringing up the Goldberg match. So he wrestled Seth, beat him, won the championship. Seth turns heel, goes back to his old ways. Finn Balor, he beats Finn. Finn goes back to NXT, his roots in WWE. Yeah. What was the other match he did? He turned someone else too.
Daniel
Bryan turned him back to the Yes Movement. And I think there might be one more. Was it Kane maybe? I don't think anything.
Well, he had a little interaction with Kane,
but it wasn't. I thought there might be one more match that he had. And everyone was excited because he's going to get Roman Reigns and turn Roman back to heel, which is what people want.
Right.
And then you see what he does with Cena. And all the little things, like not embracing what you should have embraced. We'll get to it, but swing the chair, everything would have changed.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to turn heel. So that's Cena's biggest fear. He doesn't want to turn his back on his fans, and I don't think it's the merchandise money. I think it's his nice little, what he has is appeal to the kids and everything, the PG era.
Right.
But there's so many things dropped in there. I don't think a lot of people picked up. And I think we're going to jump into it here. But, it turned all those innuendos and backstage dirt and brought it out to light. And if you got it, you loved it.
Yeah. And if you didn't get it, that's the reason why you hated it.
Yeah.
Right? Just like that Vince McMahon puppet. when he was at the comment. This is good shit.
If you don't know that's one of his things, then you probably didn't get, oh, that's Vince McMahon as the devil. If that's as far as you get it, okay, that's fine. But to throw that in there and have him, that's the Randy Savage buzzard. I mean, it was great.
Yeah.
It was great.
So well done and exceeded my expectations. And if you're going to write John Cena off, this was the perfect way to do it, because in my opinion, this was Cena passing the torch to Bray Wyatt, and Bray finally getting, look, when Bray lost the Universal title to Goldberg, I was so legitimately angry that they spent all that time and effort to build the Fiend character. The Fiend at one point was selling the most merchandise in WWE.
Yes.
And I felt like finally they're giving this guy his chance to take the ball and run with it. And he didn't even have to be the Fiend part to get himself over. Just being himself as the host of the Funhouse thing.
When that music would hit, people loved it. That was why people were tuning in to SmackDown.
Right.
They loved it, you know. And the comparisons of Cena as the modern day Hogan. That's the big thing, you know. He doesn't, you know. Whether you want to say they're pushed down our throats or they're the face of the company, that's Vince's choice, and it works pretty good. He's made a lot of money with both those guys for his company, and still will forever. Those are staples. But when Cena was saying that Bray has had every chance and every opportunity, and he can't capitalize on them, like that's something people thought too. They always thought that about him. You know, he comes out as ruthless aggression, Cena. He goes for the slap. He misses. You know, was he ready for that moment? He told Vince he was, and come to find out he wasn't. And right. Cena even says it himself. You come out as the doctor of thugonomics. You're sitting there rapping. You're breaking the fourth wall constantly. You probably hurt some people coming up doing those. You probably buried some people. There's a really good chance you did, but you got yourself over. You know, it's just, and then when Cena was sitting there and he goes, "Oh, I see you're writing for me. I can still rhyme." There wasn't a big creative team like that back then. A lot of people say, "Okay, well, what if that character came up with all these creative writers? It wouldn't have been as good." You're right, but it didn't. That's not how it works. And then when they did do the writers, Cena was like, "Okay, I guess I can't do that. It's PG era, whatever you want to call it." And he made that work somehow. But there's been a lot of things that people say that Cena buries people. They say the same about Triple H. It is what it is. If you can come back and get yourself over, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I mean, Bray Wyatt the Fiend is awesome. And I know we're jumping all around, but it was pretty cool to see Eric Bischoff only last 90 days in the company and still have a WrestleMania moment, wasn't it?
Man, it was just so well done. The whole thing, just essentially in one segment, they covered the last 30 years of professional wrestling.
For real. Yeah. And the steel cage thing. I think that was a call to John Cena having the body. You got the body, you can be a star, but you didn't have a promo at the time.
Yeah.
The body can't save you. And then he turns into Doctor of Thugonomics. And then your mouth is saving you. You know, it was so awesome. It was so well done. And the thing about Goldberg and The Fiend, you know, he changes all those people, right? Is what I was saying, changes them back.
Yeah.
The thing I was thinking is Goldberg has always been the same. That's The Fiend's weakness. If he's wrestling someone that's never changed, you can't reset him. That's the weakness, I think, of The Fiend. You know, that's
a very good point. I had not thought of it like that. Maybe
I'm delving too deep in ring psychology, but it doesn't make it any better. Believe me, I'm not saying that.
Right.
But I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, And like you said, it was what saved WrestleMania. That's going to be the marquee moment, I think, from WrestleMania. And a lot of people compare that with the Boneyard match because of the way it was filmed, the way it was presented. It was not in the Performance Center. It was not even in the ring. It was on location, 2 different sets. But my God, the Boneyard match was what it was. A lot of people preferred that over the Firefly Funhouse match. I personally prefer the Firefly Funhouse just because of all the little, all the little ins and outs of it, all the little references. I mean, I went back and watched it a second time. It was like, oh, I didn't see that when they aired it live. So,
right.
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was it was fucking perfect for what it was.
I can't lie. I did not expect that. I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't expect that. And I didn't expect something that was going to be out of the ring to steal the show and save the night, but it sure did.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you were to put a bow on WrestleMania 36, if you were to give it a grade, an overall grade, from both nights, all the matches, all the segments, take Gronkowski out of it because he's an asshole. Where does WrestleMania 36 rank on your scale?
I'm going to give it a solid B because it's above average for everything that happened and everything that's going on. Could it have been better? Maybe the in-ring and some of the cameras and stuff. Yeah, that would have gave it an A for what we're looking at with the coronavirus and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm giving it a solid B. You could have went into it looking at it like this is going to be a letdown and just deal with it, but it wasn't. I still popped for some stuff, and I didn't think that was going to happen without a crowd and the big entrances and everything.
I'm with you on the grade. I have it in my notes here, a solid B. But this is where I start to put the promoter hat back on, not the performer, strictly from a promotional standpoint, because this is where I was going to go with this to kind of put a bow on it on my end. Because right after both nights, I went on Twitter and just Facebook is one thing, but Twitter is something so totally different.
It's an evil machine.
Very well put. For all intents and purposes, if anybody's going to shit on anything, it's going to be on Twitter. And there was a lot of that. Here's my take on it. We are living in a world right now where virtually everything is shut down. There is no baseball. There is no basketball. There is no hockey. For all intents and purposes, we probably won't see a Stanley Cup champion this year. We probably won't see an NBA champion this year. I'm not even sure if we're going to have any sort of baseball season at all, although before we started to record this, I had seen on the news that they're talking about doing all of the games in Arizona in empty stadiums.
Yep.
WWE and AEW for that matter, and self-admittedly, I am not that big of an AEW fan.
You bastard.
Professional wrestling has stood out right now as it's as legitimate of a sport as you're going to see. And what I mean by that, yes, outcomes are predetermined. But there is not a more real thing in this world than to elicit some sort of reaction from an audience. Professional wrestling does that better than any sport or entertainment entity on the globe, in my opinion. It is easy to sit here or sit there behind a computer screen and type out, everything that you didn't like about the show without thinking for 2 seconds about the effort that it took to put on not just one night of action, but two. And when you do it under the umbrella of a WrestleMania, which is the industry standard for a live event, a live.
That's what outside people call wrestling. Oh, did you watch that WrestleMania? They could have been talking about Monday Night Raw. Oh, I don't watch WrestleMania. There's people that call it that. So that is the flag bearer.
So for people to shit on WrestleMania this year, yeah, okay, there wasn't 80,000 people in a filled, stadium. There wasn't the pyro. There wasn't the pomp and the circumstance. WrestleMania 36 proved that the show really revolves around the men and women that perform in a 20 by 20 ring.
Mm-hmm.
And all the effort and the sacrifice and everything that goes into it. And in my opinion, it is that, for those reasons alone, why professional wrestling is a hell of a lot more real than people will ever give it credit for. And kudos to Fox Sports and kudos to ESPN. Yeah, they need programming, right now. But they can throw on, an old Super Bowl or an old baseball game, and they'll get ratings. They may not be as high as a live event, but they'll get their ratings. But the fact that those two major sports entities put that kind of spotlight on WWE just goes to show that the rest of the world is starting to see and acknowledge the fact that professional wrestling is a hell of a lot more real than people will give it credit for. And I say thank you to Vince McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you to Bruce Pritchard and everybody else that's involved with the creative process, and then all of the performers and the camera guys and the editors and everything else that went along with it. For that, WrestleMania 36, yeah, it's in the history books, but it has its own chapter for a number of different reasons, and that's my takeaway from this year's WrestleMania.
I totally agree. People don't think about all the people behind the scenes that are sacrificing everything that helped us, be able to watch that. Maybe forget about what's going on around the world. They could have easily just postponed it until it was done to fill up a venue, to make all that money, all that merchandise money. But they chose not to. Whether you can say Vince is just a shill to keep his show on the date that he wanted to do, that's fine. But what he really did was he gave us an escape.
Yep.
And I don't know if people are just so ignorant to see that. And then all the people, usually that's what, 600, 800 people that help produce and run that because it's such a big thing. He had 20, 30 people, it sounds like.
Right.
Working 18, 19-hour days.
Separate shifts because they can't all be in the building at the same time.
And they all have their own outside families and their own outside things. I'm not going to keep dropping it just because we listen to it. I'm not a friend or anything. I'm a fan. Bruce Pritchard, he missed his anniversary, and stuff like that. And we know, what his wife has went through.
Right.
Systems are attacked by this. You got to be careful with it. And he's not able to be there for her. The sacrifices people are making, I think, are getting cut short, and they're not being, appreciated, and they should have. I loved it. It was nice to have an escape. 2 nights was pretty cool. It was different, and it's okay to look at it. But like you said, there's going to be books written just from these 2 nights alone. There's going to be full books.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. My thing is if you cannot appreciate the efforts of everybody across the board in front of the camera as well as behind, if you can't appreciate what you saw this past weekend under the banner of WrestleMania, you need to stop watching wrestling, because nothing will ever be good enough for that individual. And to that, you can kiss my ass, because that was remarkable what they pulled off. And if you can't appreciate it, quit watching. Go watch UFC. Go watch something else, because obviously this is not it for you. People sit there and armchair promote and book and everything like that. Oh, well, I should have. they should have done it this way. They should have wrote it that way. When you and I were kids, there was no talk of that. It was, I can't believe Paul Orndorff just turned on Hogan. He needs to get his ass kicked.
See?
Oh, I'm not happy that Mr. Perfect is the Intercontinental Champion. But it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, we could delve into the whole episode of how social media has changed, how everyone is a Bill Watts or whatever. You know, everyone thinks they're a promoter. You know, we've talked about that. It killed kayfabe, which, you know, I want to feel like a kid. That's the big part about this. You watch this with children's eyes. You know, you watch it with your kids. My kids love it. It's sad that now you can go through and spoilers are one thing, but to say, oh, this should have happened or this is what was gonna happen. You know, we listen to the podcast. We know how those guys that are in the business feel about that. You know. But hardcore fans, I think, feel about the same way. You know, we can have opinions. That's fine.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah,
that is certainly a topic for another episode.
I would have been pissed if the internet was back in the day and I clicked and saw that Shawn Michaels threw Marty Jannetty through the barbershop window, and then 2 days later, I'm waiting to see it and I know it's coming.
Right.
That's what made a big impact on me. But you know. It's just, it's crazy what social media and the internet has done to the business. If you can't put blinders on and enjoy it, back off.
Yeah. True story, my friend. True story, and that is certainly a topic that we can tackle on a future episode. But as I look at the clock here, we're like over an hour and a half into this thing.
Yeah, we got into it.
But Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show, my brother. I certainly appreciate your insight, your input, your opinions on this. This was a very fun episode for me personally.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say to wrap up your end of it here?
No, I appreciate you having me. I really enjoyed it. This was nice. I'd like to do another one sometime, maybe. Just everyone out there that watches, stay safe, you know, stay at home if you don't have to leave. Let's get through this so I can actually talk face to face with this guy.
Well, I certainly appreciate your time in recording this. This was fun. We will do this again soon. For the rest of you watching on YouTube, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Close to the Heart. If you haven't done so already, find us on Facebook. All you got to do is look for Close to the Heart. If you have an idea for a show, if you have feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, drop us an email at clousetotheheart@gmail.com. He is Chris Welch. I am Jason Klaus. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time right here on Close to the Heart.